a leader doesn't go and bring everyone along with them and then they take the step together. A leader sometimes has to take the step first. Over the last couple weeks, I've kind of seen my body break down a little bit, whether it's an anxiety attack or just being sleep deprived or a little more on edge. We had moments where, we couldn't even buy chocolate chips for our kids, or you feel like a total loser.
Hey, welcome to the 513 podcast, where we talk about business, leadership, and legacy. Just wrapped up a conversation with Phil Symonkhonh, owner and operator of MidDay Construction. We talked about how to overcome from setbacks in business, how to prioritize your family, and much more. Check out how the conversation went. Well, Phil, thanks for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's start off with MidDay Construction. If you want to dive into a little bit of the history of MidDay, and honestly a little bit further, and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. So I guess technically my career would have started in 2014. So I would have been an independent contractor with a real estate license trying to figure out what to do with my life. And
how old were you at that time?
I was 20 years old, turning 21.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically I got a real estate license, had a great mentor, and was just trying to find my way. Just the real estate sales thing didn't work, but I did have a knack for numbers. So that's where investment real estate started. And so out of that grew an investment real estate business. We were doing flips, rentals, contracting work. And then eventually, this is high level overview, but eventually that grew into more residential and general contracting, which eventually then evolved into commercial construction, which is what we're in right now.
So now you have MidDay, which is commercial construction, which is a completely different animal from residential. Share a little bit about how that's going, and where you're at now, and when did you start MidDay specifically?
Yeah. So MidDay's name technically started the end of last year because of identity fraud. That's the only reason why MidDay was born. So leading up to that, we operated as Simplify, and on Christmas Eve is when we had an incident with someone cutting checks and FanDuel and all that going on. And then that's actually how MidDay was birthed. And so we had to start a brand new LLC. Things expedited really quickly. And so by the end of December, we were actually up and running as MidDay.
Wow. So that was a very quick turnaround.
That was a stressful Christmas season. That's what that was.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. But no, it moved quick. We went through just a local office to kind of move things, and we were kind of thinking it was going to be like a 2 to 3 week period. And we also thought that we probably could have lost a lot of business by doing that, but if anything, we gained business, nor did anyone really care, because it was actually more relationship driven than it was name driven.
And before switching to MidDay, were you already starting to dive into commercial, or was that transition from residential to commercial already in place?
We were already transitioning when we operated as Simplify. So at the time we didn't know it was the later part of Simplify, but towards the later part of Simplify is when we started transitioning.
Okay. Yeah.
And the only way we transitioned was there was a door that kept staying open for us. And so I grabbed the phone book and I joined a local organization called ABC Keystone. And I actually just cold called is what I did. So I just cold called down the list, and then got a hold of a GC that was looking for millwork and casework for a big senior living community. And they asked us if we wanted to run with it, and we said yes. And so we ran with it. So that's actually how it started. It was just from cold calling.
That's amazing. That's very much just going after it, going to get it, reaching out to people, which is, you're a very dedicated person, knowing you over the years. And it's really cool to see that kind of come to fruition. So this year has been a lot of the start of MidDay, and what we know as MidDay today. And now where are you at? So you're doing commercial millwork casing. Explain what that even means.
Yeah. So when you look at the residential side, typically you have a general contractor that can self-perform and do a couple different scopes of work. When you start transitioning into commercial and industrial size projects, that's very difficult to do because the scopes of work are so big. And so we felt like we needed to specialize. And so we specialize in doors, frames, hardware, millwork, casework, and exterior work. And so we do a lot of siding, exterior trim, hollow metal doors, whether that's welded, and knockdown frames, and all sorts of millwork from your running base case to custom millwork and ceiling panels and things like that. So we felt that targeting a specific skill set was going to help us grow and have more controlled growth because it's repetitive, and then also you can dial in versus having too much scope of work and then not really being good at anything. So I would say that that would be a huge shift from residential to commercial. Is the jobs are just much bigger, so then the specialty contractors are just much bigger as well too then. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, with this year, well, I guess what's your background with construction in general, and then diving into commercial?
Yeah.
What's been one of the biggest learning curves that you've had to go through?
Yeah. So I've been around construction, especially even the investment real estate side. I was always heavier on the number side of things. So I think that actually helped when it came to like budgeting and bidding on projects and understanding cost analysis and things like that. But the biggest transition I would say is just the industry change. I mean, in residential, the best way to describe it is, even on the financial structure side, in residential, you can get a deposit, right? And so in commercial, none of that happens, right? So basically everything is on net 30, 60, 90, 120. And so you're recognizing, what your finances are, but then you also need to recognize like what your backlog is. So kind of just a little bit of context, we have a couple $1 million in backlog right now. And so with that, we're in the process of identifying where that backlog is landing over the next 12 to 24 months. And so then you're able to identify the margin that's coming in based off of that backlog so that you know where you should or should not take a job. I had the fear of missing out on projects. So I was like bidding on everything, long nights, all-nighters, like trying to just land work, when in reality, we were actually more okay than what mentally I thought we were. And so now we're in that process of just dialing that process in. So I would say the biggest change is with commercial, there's a longer backlog that can be built. And then at the end of the day, once you land your contract, that's what you're going to get paid. And so then you can make strategic decisions, you can make smart decisions and common sense decisions based off of what that is.
Which makes so much sense, and it probably makes it easier to scale to a degree, because then months out in advance of what's coming through those doors. But at the same time, when you scale that quickly, let's say you're a couple million or wherever you're at in backlog, how far out does that put you?
18 months.
18 months out. And so look back in January this year, how far out were you at that moment? And
January, we were about 3 to 4 months out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm guessing over these last 9 months, 8 months, you've had to scale substantially, hiring people, hiring the right people. How has that process been going?
So far, it's been going really well. And I think a lot of it too is since I'm still doing a lot of the estimating and the bidding and the sales, I'm seeing what our potential backlog could be as well. So currently we have 52 bids out, and that equates to about 5.3 million. And so that's not guaranteed we're going to win any of those jobs. Okay. But basically, if you look at your hit rate, let's say we operate between 20 and 30%, that gives us an idea of what potentially could happen based off of past history. But then also we're continuously bidding, right? So then you have a healthy backlog on top of a potential backlog. So it makes it a little easier to hire someone. Most people think, when they see like 50 employees, 100 employees, they're like, well, how do you get to that point? But you have to remember in construction, it's structured a little differently. Your office staff is what your overhead is part of your overhead, whereas your on-site staff, it's all project cost. Whether you're paying a sub to go perform the work or you have someone internally to do the work, it's still project cost. So it's actually much easier to scale number of bodies based off of project cost than it is overhead. Because overhead's what your family uses, right? So if you're bringing on someone in the office, you also have to remember, hey, can you do this by yourself? Number one. Number two, is this person worth it? Number three, if they are, what does that actually do financially for the company? And you have to look at it from those numbers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So with that, where you're at now, how large is your team?
Yeah.
And how's that going?
So we have 4, potentially 5 by the end of the week in the office. And then operating on site, there's about a dozen folks right now. And that's a mix between 1099 and W-2. But we try to stay between 50 and 60% W-2.
Okay.
What we don't want to do is hire too many people and lay people off. And so we'd rather stick at a better ratio so that we always have work for the guys that are joining our team. And then we can always sub out the rest to fill the work order. But then with the growth standpoint of things, the whole point of what I said with that backlog, when you have that map that shows you how much manpower you need per project, it will show you how many guys you actually need versus what you want. And so then you can work backwards from there.
Yeah. With having a team that size, what are some goals that you have with the growth of your company, and where do you want to take it?
The biggest thing I would say is wanting the team to feel like this is part of who they are, not just like they're clocking in and clocking out. So that's why we build a profit sharing program. So the better we do as a company, everyone does at the end of the year. So they feel like they're a part of it. Like for instance, in our office, we'll have some folks that have had business owner background. And so to convince someone or to try to work out something where they join your team, but they lose all that control because they're so used to that. Instead of just saying that's a bad thing, I was thinking through, how can I create an environment where they still feel like they're a part of it? And so it all comes down to your leadership style. I think I was always trying to use other people's leadership styles. And then I kind of got lost in like who actually Phil was, if that makes any sense. But with that, my leadership style is I like being a support. I love providing resources to help them exceed, and I love challenging them and pushing them to figure it out. And so my thought process is, then why don't I just have that environment for the whole team? And so part of having a larger team is, they have to figure stuff out. We have a rule in our team that you can't ask a question until you've already come up with 2 potential solutions. And if someone will ask a question without doing that, we're not going to answer it. Because the thing that I always share with them is, if I answer that question and I'm diving in and figuring it out, why do I need that person? Sounds harsh, but it sets the expectation that each person needs to problem solve and that we trust them to do well. And so when we give them responsibility, but then also they're getting financially compensated when we do well, it makes them feel like they're a part of it. And so it's a bigger movement than just them clocking in and out.
Yeah. So what are some ways that you can instill that in your company? How have you done it? And how would you encourage other people to instill that kind of passion and that sense of ownership for employees?
Yeah. I think the first thing, well, it's kind of a gut check too. Like the first thing for me was, if someone does something differently than I do it, it doesn't mean it's wrong. I think I just had this expectation like, hey, this is how I would do it. And so I would teach them the foundation and the principle of how to do something. But then if they would tail off, I would always think that's wrong, or if that wasn't productive enough. When in reality, like, I just needed to trust them more. So like I would say that's my encouragement, is actually, when you're hiring someone for a specific position, you're trusting them to be the expert. So they should know it better than you. Because if they don't, then why are you releasing control of it, right? So yeah, I mean, you can ask 5 people that question, you'll get 5 different answers. But what's worked for us is for me to just trust the team to do whatever that responsibility is, but then also give them the liberty to make mistakes.
Yeah.
If you put them like in this like small little shell, they're only going to operate because they're operating because they don't want to make a mistake. Yeah. But when you take that away and you invite them to just take risk, it allows them to actually feel like it's their own.
How's that been for you? Because it sounds like your tendency is more to maybe control or kind of step in when things aren't done what you think is correct. Yeah. How's that been to kind of take your hands off the wheel and like and kind of empower your team to do their job?
Scary at first, because like it brings back old memories when we were in financial binds and struggling. We had moments where, we couldn't even buy chocolate chips for our kids, or like you feel like a total loser. I mean, when you're sitting in a grocery store and your kid wants to buy a chocolate egg and you have $12 on your credit card, I'll never forget those moments. Or like, you have a negative balance, or you have all these things, like all those things come out when you're beginning to release control. And I think it's a work in progress, but I also think the sooner I was quicker to release, the sooner I actually experienced freedom to go do the things that I'm actually really good at. And so, perfect example right now is estimating, right? So I'm handling all the estimating. We did offer someone an estimating manager position. And the end of this week, we'll see if he would accept that position. But that would free up my hours. Right now I'm still working 60 to 80 hours a week. That's a big range, but like some weeks are heavier, some weeks are less. But I'm, getting up early, working
Way too late.
Working way too late. I get a lot of texts from Ryan saying that I should not be doing this. But yeah, I'll work basically from 7 to 4:30.
Yeah.
And then I'll make dinner, hang out with the kids, put the kids down to bed, hang out with Lindy a little bit. And then I'll work from 8 p.m. till like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And I've done that for the last 2 years now.
And we've talked about this before too. Like there's a season where that can be sustainable.
Yeah.
And there's a season where you do have to grind it out, especially as a business owner, where you have to push through, work weird hours, work extra hours with the goal of getting to the place to where you establish your business, your team, to where that weight can be taken off of you, and you can kind of hand over more things and kind of get your life back in a sense where you're not sacrificing your family the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like you're starting to find that balance, or where are you at with that?
I think by hiring these people is the only way I'm going to get that balance. So like that's where the whole like releasing part comes in that we just talked about, is by bringing on people is essentially buying back time. To operate the hours I'm operating at is not sustainable. And I've said over the last couple weeks, I've kind of seen my body break down a little bit, whether it's an anxiety attack or just being sleep deprived or a little more on edge or frankly just forgetting stuff, But if you talk about like managing what's in front of you, is that actually managing what's in front of you? And then also prioritizing things. I was always prioritizing work for my family. However, I wasn't prioritizing, proper sleep or health or eating correctly. Let's joke about the whole cheeseburger diet. It's a real thing. But yeah, I would say we're getting a better balance on that. And I would say over the next like 30 to 60 days here, we would have a pretty good leadership team to just run things. And I'm already experiencing a little bit of mental freedom knowing that, so that I can focus on driving the ship.
Yeah. Well, you also mentioned a little bit of financial struggle. And I don't know how much you want to dive into that or be open about it, but like how has that been going through some of those things, and how do you feel like you're coming out of it, and what steps have you taken to come out of that, and kind of more of an encouragement to maybe there's guys, leaders out there that are in a similar struggle. They're trying to get back onto their feet, get back ahead of like in the profit. And what would be some advice, or where have you been with that?
Best in class leaders make hard decisions before it's too late. Someone told me that, and that stuck with me. And so a lot of what caused some of the financial issues was just not being aware of things and knowing the score, right? So I didn't know my numbers enough. I knew the sales that could potentially come in, but I didn't know my numbers. And so I was making decisions too late, which led to a lot of that. That was at one point we were in the hole like 1.4 million or something like that. I forget what it was. But a lot of that comes down to just like recognizing what's actually going on and taking the emotion out of it. It's okay to have like emotion and excitement, but that can't drive every decision. Can it be a part of a decision? I think it can, but it can't be the main reason for a decision. And so I think for us, it was like making too quick of decisions on things, and then not managing our money well. I mean, when you're in your mid-20s and you're bringing in a lot of money, it's very easy just to go out and blow it. And yeah, I would say we were doing that. And so I would say fast forward, we're making decisions that are strategic, and we're thinking through the decisions. And then also we're making decisions faster if we know that something has to happen. We recently let go of a takeoff specialist who was helping out with our estimating. And we had a 30-day evaluation before we would do that. And so in that 30-day evaluation, I think we were 2 weeks in, and I knew it wasn't going to work. And so instead of dragging it out an extra 2 weeks, I made the hard call. Was he upset? Absolutely. Did he understand? I don't know. But did I know that, did I feel like I made the right decision to do that so that we can move on to the next person? Yeah, I feel like we handled that well. And so I think by going through trials and things like that, you just pick up on those little tidbits. And then, because the same other situations come up again, but if you already know how to handle some of those situations, it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Do I love letting people go? No, absolutely not.
Right.
But do I know that by holding on, I could actually be hurting them and hurting us?
Yep.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's part of it too, is like with your team, sometimes when you do hold on, it's actually holding them back from what their calling is, or what they're really good at, what their talent lies. And so sometimes with that, like, who knows, maybe that person is now excelling in their new role, or which is always difficult though.
Business leadership is not for the faint of heart. Like, since I was a kid, I've always wanted to own an organization and scale a large organization, and now being in a position for those things to happen, like, you actually recognize the sacrifice it takes, you recognize the criticism it takes, you recognize the pure gut-wrenching like decisions that have to come with it. And so I don't take those things lightly anymore. You know, because if you think about it, when you're a business owner, you have people trusting you. Them and their families are trusting you for you to lead them. You know, and so before, as a business owner, I would involve too many too quick in the beginning. And so I'd be like this idea guy, right? That I would share out some of these things. I probably stressed the heck out of some people in the room, when in reality I was only sharing an idea. You know, and so I've learned to kind of be quieter on those things and actually vet through it myself before I actually project something out, because they're following me. And so a leader doesn't go and bring everyone along with them and then they take the step together. A leader sometimes has to take the step first. And so you have to essentially be okay with being a little lonely. And that was one thing I think I've struggled with. But there's, you know, peer groups and things like that, life groups like what we had talked about earlier, that help with that. But when you're a leader, there's a lot of responsibility. And so you have to make sure you're on your game. And so if that means getting better rest, you need to recognize that sooner. And I would say for me, I recognize that a little bit too late, but not, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I recognize that a little later than what I should have, but it's not too late. So that's why we just made the call to then hire.
And recognizing that now and making the changes for yourself. And I think being a leader as well is like, we can make decisions that benefit other people. We can make decisions that affect other people. But ultimately, we have to make decisions that affect and benefit us as well. And figuring out ways that we can make sure that we're staying healthy, that make sure that we're staying on top of our game, and that we're coming to our team with the best, with our best selves. And I think it's easy to forget that sometimes, and I struggle with that too. Some days I'll come into the office, I'm exhausted, and I'm like, this is not beneficial because my team needs all of me, like the best version of Ryan, and your team needs the best version of Phil. And so how do we bring that to the table? And so it's always these things of how do we grow and improve and learn and continuously even just do a better job at taking care of people and caring for people. On your team, and outside of that, your clients and so on. Who has been some like inspiration in your life as far as like actual people you know, but then also leaders, speakers, authors? Who's been some inspiration for Phil?
It's funny because like I would say locally, it's come in seasons. You know, I had a guy named Mel Hurst and Tim Schreiner that got me started when I was a 20-year-old kid. I had no idea what I BS'd my way through, and they were great in showing like what it meant to just be walking in a high level of integrity. So I would say that if there was like a overwhelming umbrella of a theme, it would be integrity. And so each individual that has played a part has had that high level. You know, I would say on the business end right now, Murph Smucker would be a huge one. He's, you know, exemplified what it means to lead a larger organization, but also what it's like to make hard calls when most people won't necessarily agree. I would say that's a huge part. There's another gentleman, his name is Rob Stoppard. You know, there were so many times where I wanted to quit, and I would like come up with all these scenarios of how I wasn't going to do this anymore. And he would just sit with me, he'd pray with me, we'd talk through a lot of this, and then it would basically bring me down to a level head. But I would say my wife is a huge part of it too. Like, she really cheered me on. You know, I'm not claiming this, but I would say like some wives could potentially give up. You see a lot of divorces and things like that when struggles happen. But my wife stood beside me the entire time through thick and thin. So knowing that she said, "Hey, you go out and do your thing. I've got this here." She's running her own business at home, managing all the kids, right? And so the fact that she is willing to do that so that I can go do my thing is a huge part. And so.
And also recognizing that is huge.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys, it's easy to not give enough credit to our wives, to a stay-at-home mom that's taking care of their kids.
Yeah.
But that is such a crucial job.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't be able to do what we do without our spouses supporting us. And we have great wives. You have an awesome wife. Our wives are cousins.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's huge to kind of recognize them and just kind of honor them. And so going back to being the best part of ourselves, like even after a day of work, like how do we go home and make sure that we're there for our family, there for our wives, there for our kids? And we're girl dads. You have 3 girls and I have 2. And how do we like go and have fun with them, support them? So it's like making sure that we're growing our businesses, taking care of our employees, our clients, and being full of integrity during the day, but then also coming home and continuing that and loving our family well and taking care of them. Any advice or encouragement or practical ways that you've accomplished that in your own life?
Oh man, by screwing up a lot and figuring out new things. Well, one thing I was going to share along the lines of that is it's also recognizing your priorities, right? And so this past weekend, we had a really fun weekend hanging out with the Smucker family. I almost skipped the trip because I had a deadline that I had to meet on something. And so I was convinced last minute to go. And I'm so glad I did, because if I didn't go, I would have missed out on all the fun, all the freedom, all the good times to go turn into work. So I guess what I'm saying by that is actually recognizing that you are in control of your business is not in control of you. And so I would say I've been working in the business for the last 6 months to 12 months, when now we're transitioning into me working on the business. And if I didn't recognize that in the 11th hour before we left, I'd probably walk into this podcast right now stressed out, beaten down, tired, sleep deprived, and so I think it's actually just making the hard call to know that you have to prioritize your family, and then you also need to prioritize your own personal time. I don't know if that makes sense how I'm saying that, but I think it's more, I guess the thing that I've recognized is that, I'm telling myself that I'm doing this for my family. Our goal is to have $5 million in backlog by the end of the year.
Nice.
And we're on track for that right now, which is exciting.
That's great.
And so the other goal is to be debt-free by 35. I'm 32. And so we're also on track for that right now as well. So
Congrats,
that's very,
man. Those are 2 awesome goals to have.
Thanks, man.
And it sounds like you're heading in the right direction, which is great.
So that's really exciting, but it was my only thing. I didn't have a backup. It's like, you asked me to golf last week. Could I have made that work? Probably. But was I feeling like I needed to do other stuff? Yes. But the stuff is always going to be there. If I would have went golfing and then went to the trip, I probably would have had a rock star 3 days. Instead, I had a really stressful day on Friday, but then had a lot of fun over the weekend. So I would say it just comes down to like prioritizing fun. I would say that would be something that if I could tell my younger self now, is like actually scheduling out having a fun day for yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, then you don't necessarily have things to look forward to. So that's why I'm really intentional with my calendar. I schedule out all the vacations. I schedule out even focus times during the day. Schedule out lunch, break times, quiet times, whatever. Because do I always abide by it? No. But is it at least like a guardrail that I know that's there to kind of make sure that I'm in check on it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Now to family. I want to chat a little bit about family. So we mentioned you have three daughters. How do you like leadership at home? So as you were talking, I was like, man, like I need to do a better job at this. We set all these goals for our business. We set all these goals for growth within our company and so on and so forth. Like what kind of goals for our families do we have?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we have some. We kind of have some kind of like mottos that we live by, but we don't necessarily have distinct goals. You have the one of being debt free, which is awesome. But even for like your daughters, for your kids, what does that look like? Like, do you have anything in your own personal life where I'm like, man, I was like,
it probably could be better, honestly. Like, I feel like because of the hours I've been putting in, I've probably been a little more on edge than I'd like to be. Like, I've seen the weeks where I work a lighter week and I feel great at home with my kids. You know, my tolerance level is there, my patience is there. The weeks where I'm pulling all-nighters and things like that, I'm snapping quicker, kind of being a jerk, but then like creating an environment of stress sometimes, which isn't great. Like in terms of like our kids and leadership and things like that, you know, I would say Lindy and I have really tried to emphasize like the importance of working hard for something. And so like with the business, like we actually educate our kids on all of that, you know, what we do, what the name of the company is. And then we also talk about the bids that are going out and when we land bids. So when we land bids, we have like a little award for the family. You know, we landed a huge bid a couple months ago. And so we decided to take our kids to Disney World.
Yeah.
And so we built this like whole presentation on the couch and then we invited the kids in and they just freaked out. It was awesome. Yeah. So I would say like principles of like working hard and things like that are constantly being taught to the kids. You know, I tell the kids all the time, like, you know, the not so fun stuff, they're not so fun, but you still have to do it. Like no one wants to clean up a room. No one wants to do those types of things. But I would say on the parenting side, I think I've been so self-critical that I think some of that, unfortunately, is coming out into me being critical of my kids, which isn't the greatest. But that typically comes out when my tank is empty, not when my tank is full. When my tank is full, I feel like I'm being real intentional with the kids, trying to understand, you know, why are they freaking out in the middle of Target instead of just getting really annoyed and my face getting red in the middle of Target and yelling at them. You know, so I would say that's a work in progress. And I would say part of hiring the team now and buying back time is to actually buy back a more stable like work-life balance. Yeah, I'm probably not the best example of that right now. I think my goal has always been to, you know, provide a lifestyle for my kids that I never had, or like, you know, set our family up so that they can literally go do whatever they want. You know, if they ever run into a gym or want to buy a house or things like that, I've always wanted to be in a position. Our family, Lindy and I have always wanted to be in a position to support them that way, but that's not everything. If I do that, but I'm a jerk to my kids, like what is that going to do? So yeah, admittingly, I'm working on that to try to build back that time so that I can be more in the moment because I haven't done the greatest at that.
Which is also a great realization too, because I think it's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and feel like we need to do this, and always have this long list of tasks. But we never let go and be like, okay, like I have done what I can do and the rest is up to God. The rest is like, I can't control everything. And so I think a big part of leadership and like family leadership as well is just like doing what you can do and then letting go and being like, I can't control everything. And just trying to, love your kids, love your wife well, treat them well, be intentional. I love like even that whole idea of like a presentation to your family to announce that you're going to Disney World. That's so cool. And that's like a memory that you're building because it's going that one step because you'd be like, hey kids, we're going to Disney World. But no, you set up a presentation, like you went above and beyond and like those things that keep doing those things. Just keep doing those. And it's inspired me to do stuff like that too, because those are memories that are built. Those are core memories that your kids will remember. Just like our parents are fun. Like they love us. They care for us. And so that's huge.
Can I say one thing along that too?
Absolutely.
I think also like when you're in the grind, if you and your wife are on the same page and you know it's seasonal, it's okay. If you're not on the same page and you start to kind of see like it start to slip away. For a moment there, I started to kind of see it like, okay, Phil, you're kind of overdoing this thing. Recognizing that and just like coming back with your tail between your legs and resolving it. You know, for instance, I haven't missed dinner. Like, I know it sounds dumb, but like I was like, I need to make dinner. And there was one time where I almost missed dinner last week. And I was like, why? Like, why is this worth it?
Yeah.
You know, and almost every night, I do a story time with the kids.
Yeah.
And I'm just a goofball. We'll like make up the dumbest stories and whatnot, but I'll try to throw like a life lesson in there about like teamwork and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the days that I'm really tired, I know I have to go back downstairs to our office to bid, I don't do them.
Mm-hmm.
I just say a quick prayer, you know, for them to go to bed, and then it's like, peace, I'm out.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't want to be in my 40s and 50s and 60s and think back that like I didn't prioritize my time with my family and my kids. Yes, am I doing something to try to help build something for our family? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to sacrifice those moments.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I'm getting close to that gray area of sacrificing, and I don't want to do that.
And I'm always reminded, because I feel like it's very, as a business leader, it's very easy to get caught up in that and feel like we always have to be working. We always have to be providing. We always have to do this and this and this. But I hear the stories over and over again of people that are at their deathbed or towards the later years in their life. They never wish they would have worked more.
Yeah.
They never wish they would have spent more time at the office. It's always, I wish I would have spent more time with my family.
Yeah.
I wish I would have been there for my daughter. I wish that I would have been there for my kids. And so it's keeping that in the forefront. Yes, we can build these awesome businesses and we can care for our team and grow them, but our families are the most important. Yeah. And always coming back to that and just making sure that that is the key, kind of the forefront, like a guidepost of our lives. And yeah, so we're coming to a close. Is there anything else that you want to share?
One thing that comes to mind right now is being part of a life group. Like you and I are in the same life group together, and that has been life-changing. And I think when you can put yourself in an environment where you can just be real, and not that you're not real elsewhere, but if you can be in an environment with a group of guys or a group of individuals that can share similar goals, but also can just be real, it's life-changing. You know, if it wasn't for that life group, I probably would have given up. You know, I was literally looking at VP positions somewhere and things like that, and I'm so thankful I didn't. But yeah, I think having community, but then also like just recognizing priorities. Yeah. I think as a guy, when you start recognizing success and you see things or you see other people doing things, it's very easy to compare yourself. But if you actually look at what the true priorities are, you can navigate those waters a lot easier. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a very important topic to talk about, comparison. Because no matter what industry you're in, there's a level of comparison that's so easy to fall into. Imposter syndrome of like with me starting video production, like I don't have any formal training, but learning as I go. And there's always this level of like, I feel like an imposter in this world of video production. But now I was just trying to learn and do my best and grow. And it's trying to find that balance of like seeing other people's work and being inspired, but not comparing and getting down on yourself because you're not there. Their journey is completely different. And a lot of the times we see people in the light of years and years of hard work to get to where they are now, but then we see them and like, why am I not there? It feels like they got there right away. But 99% of the time, they spent years of unnoticed work to get to that point that we're comparing our life to right now. And so, just a reminder to anybody, comparison is the thief of all joy, and try to eliminate that as much as possible. Yeah.
Just be in the moment and just take one day at a time. You know, you don't have to get 50 things done on your list. You know, if there's one or two things you get done and nothing's crumbling around you, it's going to be okay. And unfortunately, it took trial after trial for me to realize all of that. You know, and so moving forward, you know, it's okay to make a mistake, but if you start making the same mistakes again over and over again, it comes to a point in time where, you know, you're kind of missing the mark on a couple of things.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, before we end also, when I started doing this, I heard it from, I forget who it was. I wish I could give give credit, but it's a thing called high-low buffalo, and it's where you talk about your
What is
high,
it?
high-low buffalo.
High-low buffalo.
Yeah, and you talk about your high from your week, your day, whatever it is, and your low from your week, your day.
Yeah. We do that with our kids, actually.
With the buffalo. So the buffalo is a funny moment.
Okay. Well, oh, okay.
So that's just the addition. So a lot of people do highs and lows, but then I was told to add in buffalo, and it just creates like this fun twist to it, and then kids enjoy it too because it's like you talk about something silly or you talk about something that happened. What's a buffalo moment for Phil in your life? Like, do you have any like crazy instances where you got just any wild stories from Phil from your life?
I've done a lot of stupid things.
And this one I put you on the spot.
Is this like a funny moment? Is this a serious moment? Is this?
It could be either.
Okay.
I would say it's typically seen as a funny moment or something, but I would say like a crazy moment just in general. So it doesn't have to be just like, it could be something just wild that happened.
I think, I mean, maybe this isn't too wild, but I think like being on some of the job sites and projects that we're on right now, you know, I still today get aha moments where I'm like, we should not be here. You know, there's some projects that we're on that, you know, companies are there 20, 30, 40 years before they have opportunities like that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we caught some lucky breaks that allowed us to do that. And so I think sometimes like, I don't know, I'm like driving in my head. I was like, I just literally pounded, you know, a quick coffee or something like that. I'm showing up on this job site and, you know, we're like this young team, and you know, it's just like it feels like a group of like little misfits being on these sites. And I would say like that's kind of like a funny moment. Mm-hmm. You know, we went from like doing investment real estate and like little flips and things like that to, you know, one project we're on right now is the Milton Hershey Theater, which is a flagship project here in the area. Yeah. And like we're walking up, there's like cranes everywhere and things like that. I'm like, this is crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
And that goes to the imposter syndrome too, is like you push through that. Yeah. It's like, no, you're just trying to do the best you can with what you have in front of you. Yeah. And you might feel like you don't belong there, but at the same time you do because somebody brought you there. Yeah. And just do the best you can with what's in front of you. Yeah. Yeah.
So sorry that wasn't a funny Buffalo moment.
Right. Do you have any other crazy moments from your life? Need something.
A crazy moment. I have bad crazy moments.
What about foods you've had? As well.
I have one that's kind of funny. So we went down to Raleigh, my wife and I. This was back like 10. So I met Lindy when I was 14, right? So we've known each other a long time. This was like 10 years ago, and we went to this one food show, and she told me we ordered food. I got like this hot sausage, and we're in the middle of North Carolina, and I ate this sausage sandwich. My mouth was so hot that my entire lips and face and tongue completely swelled up. And I just remember being at this like food festival, walking around with like a swollen mouth and swollen lips. Like it was.
That's good.
Just like dumb stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. So, well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
The other one that made me think of when we had a Super Bowl party at our house years ago, and Mad Dog 357, the hot sauce that you ended up trying and did not go well.
That just happened. Yeah. I've had a bad experience with hot stuff, but I, for some reason, keep doing it.
It's always a fun challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Phil, well, thanks for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
Any last words to close us out?
I would say you do a really good job of making people feel comfortable and pushing people to take a step out of their comfort level. Obviously, I've known you for a long time. We're real close friends, but you know, I was trying to find an answer of no to not come do this, but you were just relentless. And I think like having that level of relentless to not take no for an answer, I think is really cool. So that's what came to my mind.
Well, thanks. It wasn't supposed to be about me, but I appreciate it.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm staring right at you. This is the only thing I can look at.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, man.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Enjoy your day.
Yeah.